Hello and welcome to this video where I'm going to show you how to finally integrate Notion well with email. This is a real game changer. With this method, you will be able to get your emails out of the inbox and into Notion, summarize them, and extract all individual tasks from it and add them to your task manager. No more manual, emails here, let's enter the task into my task manager. No, everything will happen fully automated. Now, I will go and walk you step by step through everything you need to set up this process. But if you want to speed things up, you can check out the description. I have a template there for you that you can download with the Notion backend and the automation already set up for you. In the description, you will also find timestamps, so if you want to jump to a specific section, you can do that. And you'll also find the written blog post there if you need more instructions or want to copy paste something. And now, let's jump right in and get started.
So, let's start building. We're going to start in Notion and first create the backend where we save our emails, and then we move on to the automation that's going to take our emails, summarize them, extract action items, and then add them to this Notion backend. Now, you can of course use any sort of backend that you want, right? If you have already a task manager in Notion, you can simply integrate it with that. In this example, I'm going to start from scratch with nothing here, but again, this backend part is super customizable, so feel free to switch in whatever database you want. Now, for the purpose of this example, I'm going to use two databases, one for the email and then a separate one for tasks to show that we can also then link the tasks to an email to figure out, okay, where did that actually come from? So I'm going to start in this empty Notion page, and I'm going to create two databases inline to make it easier. So this will be our emails database. And this one just needs the name of the email. Then we maybe want the sender. Who is it from? This would be an email field. And then we want the summary. So text field and a summary. Okay. And then a second database for our tasks. Tasks from email database. We have, of course, the name of the task itself. And then, again, for this simple example, we will just have a relation to the email where it came from. Of course, if you were to build a proper task manager, you would add a lot more properties. If you're curious or if you're looking for one, I'll have a link in the description for another template of mine. But again, for this one, let's keep it simple. So emails database, you want to show it on both. Tasks and relation. Great. Okay, so that's it already for our Notion backend. Okay, next up, we need two accounts if you don't have them already. The first one is an account for OpenAI. Now, OpenAI is, as the name says, an AI. It's a natural language processing model, or one of their models is. And that's what powers this functionality, that we can give it any email and it will summarize it and extract action items. Because the problem with these sort of things is, right, that it's very contextual and might change the way like it's phrased, like all random sorts of people send you emails and they don't send them in the same way. So we can't just like set some basic rules like, okay, if there's like a can you in the sentence, please take this as a task. No, we need something far more advanced. We need the help of AI. And that's what we're going to get with OpenAI. The account is free to create and they give you a lot of credits in the beginning. You can, I think, summarize hundreds of emails, and even afterwards, if you use up all the free credits, the pricing is very competitive. So you could like keep summarizing your emails for a few cents. So again, great tool. I'll leave a link for it down in the description. And once you have an account, I want you to head over to log in, and then on your account side in the top right corner, you see personal. You can click on that, and then you see view API keys. Now, on this page, you see probably no API keys yet, or only one. I want you to click on create a new secret key. And this will create an API key, and it will pop up, and there will be an option to copy it. Now, it's very, very important that you copy that and save it somewhere. We're going to need it in a moment. But once you click out of this window, the API key will be gone and you would need to regenerate it, right? So I have no way of like accessing the API keys that I've already created. I would need to delete them and redo them. So again, click on create a new secret key, copy the API key, save it in a secure location, and then get back to it in a moment. So we have our backend, we have our AI assistant who will summarize the emails. So now all we need is a tool to connect all these things together. And that's Make. Make is an automation service, which means you can combine and connect various apps and create workflows that usually you would need to be the one doing it, right? You would usually need to be the person who takes an email, pastes it into OpenAI, sees the summary, and then pastes it into Notion. And with an automation tool, all of this will happen, well, automatically. Make is absolutely awesome. They have a very, very robust free plan. You will be able to build this automation without any problems on the free plan. So go ahead, sign up. I have the link in the description. And yeah, once you create your account, let's jump in and build this automation. Once you log into your Make account, something like this is what you're going to see. Your dashboard, it probably will look a bit emptier than mine, but that's the rough look. And I want you to click on the big purple Create a New Scenario button in the top right corner. And this opens up the field to build a scenario. Now, I'm going to walk now step by step through the build of the scenario. And while doing so, I will explain you a little bit about how Make works. But if you want a more beginner tutorial that really explains all the different features, again, check out the description for a video there. Also, if you don't want to build this yourself or say oh, this is a bit above my head, don't worry, I have a blueprint for this automation, again, in the template in the description. So go there, download the template, and there you find the blueprint, and then everything is already built, and you just need to configure it a little bit, connect it to your Notion account, and you're good to go. But if you want to build it from scratch, here's how. The first thing we need is a way to get our email from the email provider into this automation. And we're going to do so via a webhook. Now, there are a few ways how you could do this. You could also, if you use Gmail, you could use simply the Gmail module. So if you click on here, right, you can start searching for applications. So we could search for Gmail, and then in Gmail, you see you have this Watch Emails option. So you could totally build this automation purely for Gmail if you use that. I'm going to show you a way that works regardless of which email provider you use, and that is through a so-called webhook or mailhook in this case. And the way it's going to work is we click on this, we search for the webhook, and then we click on Custom Mailhook. And this then gives us the option to add a new mailhook. So we're going to click on Add. We're going to name it, so AI Email Tool, clicking on Save. And now we get this super long email address. And we want to copy this address. And what happens now is that any email that you forward to this address will be added to the automation. So let's copy it, click on OK, and then head on over to the email provider of our choice. So in this case, again, I'm going to show it to you with Gmail, but now it works with pretty much any email provider. You simply go there, and you could just add this email address to your contacts and then forward emails manually, or you could set up a forwarding rule, right, that any email gets forwarded, or emails that are from specific people, and so on. So let's quickly look at how you would set up this filter in Gmail. What you would need to do is you would need to go into Settings, All Settings, and then go to Forwarding and Pop IMAP. And then you want to add a forwarding address here. Now, before we do that, we actually want to go back to the automation and right-click this module and say, Run this module only. And now the webhook is active and will listen for something to come back. So then we can go back to Gmail, click on Add a forwarding address, enter the address that we just copied from Make, click on Next, wait a second, click on Proceed, and now we will get a confirmation code to this to our email. Now, how do we access that email? Don't worry. In Make, you will now see that this is green and we have this 1 popped up, which means it received an email. And you can click on here and you will see the email from Gmail. So, okay, we want to receive our forwarding. And if you now expand on this text thing, you will actually see the complete text of the email. And in there, you will have the confirmation code. So we can go ahead and we can copy this confirmation code. And then we can head on over to Gmail again and paste this confirmation code to verify. So now we verified that we have access to this email. We can set up a forwarding rule. So we can simply say, okay, anything that comes in here from Matthias, let's take this. Oops, actually need to click on here. So anything that comes from hello@matthiasfrank.de, I want to create a filter and I want to say forward it to, and now I can pick my forwarding address, this address. And of course you could do this not just for one email address, you could do it for any email that you receive or any email that has specific keywords. And then we create this filter, and now we would forward everything from my account to that email. So that's how you set up the automatic forwarding in Gmail, and otherwise, again, like any email that you would receive here, you could simply manually forward. So next up, you want to find a sample email like the one that I have here. You can send it also to yourself, and we want to make sure that we have it somewhere handy. And then we want to go again to our webhook, and we want to again click on it to run once. Go to our email provider and then manually forward this email for now. So I'm going to go here, I'm going to forward it to this super long, where was it, email address, and just, do that. And then we can head on back to make, wait a second for it to receive, and then we can look at the data and work with it to build the next step in the automation. And once our sample data is here, we can progress with the build. Now, as you can see, again, we click on here and we have the text of the email that we forwarded in here. Now, of course, because it's a forward, we have like a bit of a different format than if we have the email directly. So that's a bit of a disadvantage with this method, but don't worry, we're going to clean this up in a second. Now, the first thing that we need to do before we can actually use AI to process it is we need to clean up the email a little bit, because the API that we're going to use for the AI can't handle line breaks at the moment. So we need to remove all line breaks. Don't worry, super simple. We're going to click here for add another module, and we're going to look for the text parser. And we're going to take the text parser, and then we're going to say replace. And now we're going to use this to replace all the line breaks. And the regular expression for a line break is this \n, and the new value that we want instead is nothing. So you click in new value, and you see this context menu popping up, and we're going to head over here to A, which is all the options for strings. And then we say empty string. So replace all line breaks with a string. No global, like global match, yes please. Case sensitive is fine. Multi-line, we can leave this out. Single line, that doesn't matter too much. And then the text that we want to grab, we're going to click in here, and then we're going back to the star. And then we take the text from the first module. As you can see, we have now the option, right, to grab anything from a previous step. So we're going to grab the text from this initial step, and then click on OK. And now what happens is we receive an email, we remove all the line breaks, and then we can use that to actually send it to the AI. So currently the AI or OpenAI unfortunately doesn't have their own module in Make yet, but don't worry, we can simply do it on our own through an HTTP request. So we're going to type in HTTP, wait for it to load, pick this, and then we're going to get the use the very simple make a request module. Now, I'm going to give you now all the details for this step. It might look a bit complicated, but don't worry, just follow it, do exactly what I do, and will work properly. Also, remember, in the description, there's a blog post that has all these instructions in writing. So if you want to copy paste something from there, instead of like pausing here and then trying to write it from the screen, you can head on over there and then simply copy paste. And last but not least, if you want to figure this out on your own or like read up on something, you can always head over to the OpenAI and then click on documentation. And this will bring you to a very, very thorough, very good API documentation that walks you through all the steps on how to do these things. Okay, so let's go back to our module. And the first thing we need to put in is the URL. So first off, the thing we need to do is we need to say, okay, where is the API located? So again, you would get that from the documentation that I just show you, but it's this one, HTTPS, and then it's api.openai.com/v1/completions. And the method that we're going to use is the post method. Again, if you don't understand anything about APIs, don't worry, just follow this step-by-step process. What we did so far basically is we told Make to go to this URL and send something there. Now we need to tell it what to send. And the first thing we need to send is we need to send an authorization that we are allowed to access OpenAI, and that's where your API key from just before comes in handy. So we're clicking on headers. We're going to add a header. We're going to name this authorization with a Z. And then the value will be a bearer and then a space. And then you're going to paste your API key. So the thing that you saved from before, you're going to take this, you're going to copy it, and you're going to paste it here. I'm going to delete this API key afterwards, so no worries. That's why it's here. But yeah, so we have the bearer token and then a space and then the API key. We don't need to add another header, we don't need to add a query string, but we need to set now a body. And in the body will be the actual request. So far, again, we authorized to OpenAI that we're allowed to use it. And now we need to tell it what it should actually do. So we're going to pick the body type raw and the content type JSON. And then we need to write our request content. Now, this is a bit of a longer piece, so I'm just going to copy it from my previous build, but I'm going to walk you through the individual parts of it. So the first thing we need to do always when we write any JSON thing in here is we need to open it with those curly brackets, and then we need to give it pairs. And we need to basically set all the parameters for this process. So the first thing to do is we need to pick the model. So we're going to pick Text DaVinci 03, and that refers to the specific training model for the AI. There are a few sets. Again, you can check the documentation if you want to. This is basically right now the most advanced one. If you're watching this video a lot later and there's now a much newer, much better version out there, you could replace this one with whatever the newest module is. Next up, we're going to write the prompt. So this is the actual part that will tell the AI what to do. And here you can really be creative. I give you a sample that works well, but you could modify this if you want a different result. So what we're going to use is we're going to tell the AI that they are an expert assistant and that they should please summarize the following email forwarded to you by doing the following. Ignore the forwarding header. Summarize the email. Provide a list of comma-separated action items after the title action items. Then we're going to write email. And then here, as you can see, we have text. And actually this is black here. And it's a good example because I'm going to remove this. After the email here, we're going to add the text from our email. So we're going to, again, as you can see, we have on the side here the options to pull in some information from previous steps. So I'm going to click on text. And now I pull dynamically in always the email from that we cleaned up here. And then we just end with summary and again the colon, and then we close this. And of course, you could now go ahead and play around with this. You could try other things, right? You could turn this into a funny assistant, right? You could ask it to translate it actually. You could ask the assistant to summarize the email and translate it into whatever other language you wanted to. You could play around with the prompt to get it even shorter or longer, the summary, or do something to the action items. And this is a bit of a trial and error process. You can do this in here, or alternatively, you can also go to the playground on OpenAI and play around with the prompt there until you're confident with it. But again, this one works, so you can also just use this. The other two things that we need to set are temperature and max tokens. Now, temperature is a value between 0 and 1 and will determine how strict the model is in following your instructions. So if you set a value of a very small value, it will be very creative with interpreting your instructions and might do something that you didn't actually ask for. And if you set it to 1, it is very, very literal. So I haven't tried it with 1, but it might be that it then actually doesn't summarize things properly or so. So 0.05 works well, but again, you could play around. If you see that something doesn't work as you would like to, play around with it and adjust this a little bit. And then max tokens is about the length. When you use the OpenAI AI to generate text, you use up tokens. That's what I mentioned in the beginning, right? You get I think $18 worth of credit, which are a lot of tokens. And whenever you generate text, you use up some of those tokens. Now, the longer the prompt and the longer the response that you want to generate, the more tokens it costs. So if you have a short email, like in this case, 200 tokens should be more than enough. But if you ask it to summarize, I don't know, a few thousand words, then you need to up this token limit considerably. Again, simply try it out. You will, if you ever forward an email here that is too long for it to process in the tokens, you will receive an information that that it ended because of the token limitations, and then you can simply up it. So yeah, that's everything in here. And then we want to make sure that we click on pass response yes. This will make sure that the answer that we get back is actually useful for us. And that's it. Now we set up the AI and we can test it to see whether it can summarize our email. In order to do so, we're simply going to click on run once and again forward another email, or ideally just the same email, to our webhook address to see whether everything is set up correctly. So we click on here and then we go and forward an email. And ideally we get all greens, and then when we click on the bubble here to inspect it, we will see that we got a positive status back. So in here you see the input, and then in the output you see first thing the status code. If this is a 200, that means it's good, it worked. If it's something around 400, it means there's some error in your setup, and they usually then write inside the data actually what your error is. So they are very, very helpful with that. In our case, everything worked properly, so we can click on data and then we click on choices. And this is where the actual answer from the email is. So we see the AI tool summarized this email as this email is checking in on the progress of the open task for project AI email program, asking the recipient to call Stephen, blah, blah, blah. So the summary, and then our action items. Perfect. So it worked just as intended. Now all we have to do is we need to take that summary and the action items and add them to Notion. So how do we do that? First off, we need to extract only the action items instead of also the summary. So in order to do that, we're going to add another text parser. So we click on add another module, text parser, pick this, again, replace. And this time we're going to remove everything before the colon so that we just have the comma separated action item list. And again, this is the regular expression to do so. We again will add an empty string as the value. We know that already. We want to have a global match. Case sensitive is fine. Multi-line and single line we can leave again out. And then for text, we're going to pick the text from the HTTP request, right? So we're going in here and we take now the choices and then the text from here. Okay, that's the first part. And then the second part is that we want to get also only the part of the email, but cleaned up. And as you remember, if we want to add the email to Notion, we have here the information. Because it is forward, we have like all these weird symbols, so we want to remove them before we add it to Notion. So again, for that, we're going to add another text parser just to make clean things up a little bit. Text parser, replace. This time we're going to pick this regular expression, and again want to have an empty string, global match, and taking the text from the very beginning, from the webhook. This one, awesome. You could of course optimize this a bit further, right, and remove the forward header, stuff like that, but to keep it a bit simpler, let's just remove that for now. And then all that's left is to add this to Notion. Now, in order to do so, we're going to first create a database entry for the email that we got. So I'm going to click here, Notion, create a database item, and then we need to pick our workspace. So, whoops, where is it? Here. So when you connect Notion for the first time, you will need to authorize it, which means you need to click on add and then go through the flow to add authorize make to access Notion. If you have done it before, you know the drill, but basically you need to set it up like this. And then, very important, you need to go to Notion and make sure that make has access to that specific page. So I'm in Notion, and in here I can now click on the three dots and click on add connection. And in my case, it's still called Integromat, but in your case, it will be called make. And we can confirm that they should have access to this page with our databases. Now, it's important that you, before you do that, you authorize make to access Notion through here. So do that first, then refresh your Notion page, and then give it access to that page, and then it should work properly. And then we can search for our email database. So I'm just going to type an email here, click on OK. Oops, no match is found. Okay, let's see what the issue is. We have, it should actually be, we have our emails database, right? So it should actually, from emails, should find something. Let's see whether we do it again with emails. Otherwise, there's always a workaround. Ah, yeah, now it comes. Sometimes it takes a second. So we want emails database. Then we wait for it to load. And now we can map the information from our module to the database. So the name of that email is probably the subject line from here. Again, you could now clean this up with a forward. Actually, let's do that. Let's clean up the forward. So we can also use a replace right in here. So we can click on A. We can say replace, and then we can enter, as you see here, the syntax. So we enter the string that we want to that we have in the beginning, what we want to replace and what it's supposed to be replaced with. So we're going to take the subject, and we're going to say, please replace the forward notion and replace it with an empty string. Okay. The sender, again, we don't have the sender yet. We can use another regular expression to extract the sender. We'll skip that for now. We do that in the end. And then for tasks, we don't connect anything yet, but the summary, we want that. And as a summary, we're going to use what it gave us here. So, where was that? Choices, text, great. So that's set up. Right now, Make has a little bug that you need to confirm twice to make this red one disappear. And now we will create our email. So that is the first step. And the second step is now to take the individual action items and create individual tasks. That's probably what you waited all along, and now it's finally here. So in order to do that, we first need to break up the string from here, because as you can see here, right, the result that we get is this complete text, and we simply have then the separation of lists, like these various list items separated by a comma depending on how many tasks we have in the email. So how do we do that? Well, we do that with the help of an iterator and another built-in formula of Make that turns any of these comma separated lists into an array. So click on add another new module. We're going to pick the iterator, flow control iterator, and then we need to give the iterator an array. So what an iterator does is it takes an array, so a list of items, and instead of like just taking the whole list through it, it will split up the list into individual positions and then process them individually. Unfortunately, we don't have an array yet, but we can easily create one using another text formula that's called split. So let's go in here, pick split, and as you can see, we can give it a string. We can tell it what separates different string items, and then it turns that into an array. So we pick split, and then we're going to take from our, which one is the first text parser? I should have named them. I think the first text parser is the one that does the extracts the action items, and they are separated by a comma. So I'm putting a comma in here, click on OK, and actually let's quickly rename this to get action items. Okay, and rename this one to clean up email. Okay, just so we know which one does which. So we have our iterator, and then all that's left is to add these to our Notion task database. So we're going to, again, create a database item in the sandbox. This time we're going to pick the tasks database, tasks from email. The name of the task will be the value from the iterator, so the actual task name. And then we can also map it to the email. So in order to do that, we're going to click on map, and then we select here the database item ID from the previous Notion step. So this will create a relation between the task and the email. And that's it. Now our automation is done, and we can test to see whether it actually works. So fingers crossed, again, forward an email to that address to test it, and then click on run once and pray that it works. So we want to process the existing bundle. That happens if you send an email before you click on the run part here. It will already receive it, and then it will wait there for you. And so it will ask you, should it process that? And yes, you want to process that. So let's see. This is looking good so far. Let's go to Notion. Oops, where is it? Here's Notion. And there we have it. We have our really important email. We have our summary, what Matthias is asking. And we have our tasks, like from the email, the initial part, out of here to have lunch at 1 in the cafeteria, call Steven to schedule a meeting, and list open tasks for AI email program. We have it also linked to our email, so it works. And the only thing we can now do, to show you as a little bonus, is how we get actually the sender also in here. That's very easy now, child's play for you at this point. We're simply going to use another text parser to extract that email from here. Here it is from, right, that's the initial address. So in order to do so, we right click here, add a module, add another text parser. This time we're going to pick the match pattern one, because we don't want to replace the email, we want to find it, right? So match pattern. The pattern for this one will be this. So this picks the thing in between these symbols after the from. Very complicated. Regex is a whole other beast. But basically we want no global match this time. We only want the first result. Case sensitive is fine. Multi-line, no, single line, no, but we want to have it continue definitely if it doesn't find anything. And then what it's going to take is the text. Awesome. And then we can just, for the completion sake, go in here and make sure that we also map the sender to this very first part here. And yeah, oops, that's it. Now you have your automation. All you need to do if you want to turn this on and make sure that it listens continuously to emails is to click here on scheduling on. It will always work immediately as data arrives. It's really cool. So whenever you forward an email, it will run and it will automatically take your email, have it summarized, extract action items and add them to Notion. How cool is that? So there you have it, how you build an AI email processing assistant for Notion. Now this is of course only the beginning. You can do a lot more things with that. You could have it listen for specific things, right? You can refine the prompt. You can also, if you want, and you don't need the AI part for that, grab the attachments and add them to Notion. All these things are possible. Now, again, as a reminder, in the description, you find a blog post that also has a tutorial on how to do these things without AI. So if you don't want to use AI and you want just to get your emails into Notion, you can follow these instructions. You have the step-by-step instructions for this and everything that you want to copy paste. And of course, you'll find a template of mine there where you can have already set up this email Notion part, and you get the blueprint for the automation to download. If you have any other questions on how this works or any issues that you run into, please leave them in the comments below. I'm happy to help you. And last but not least, if you enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate a thumbs up. And if you want to learn more about Notion and how automations can make everything better, then consider subscribing to this channel. See you in the next one. Bye.